right, so quick reminder that tomorrow I am not here. I'm not here tomorrow. So the sub there'll be a warm-up when you come in. You do the warm-up. Once y'all are done with the warm-up, then she should start a video. The video is me going over the warm-up and then doing the instruction. There are notes that'll be out, and that's basically it. There's no homework tomorrow, so it's just classwork. Just make sure you pay attention and watch the video. If you, as you're watching the video, if like you miss a part or whatever, the nice thing about the video is you can literally just back it up and rewatch it if you need to. Luke?
Is it like the one we did yesterday, where it's like you don't want to step home because it's hard?
No. It's very easy. It's just Friday. Okay? Any questions on tomorrow? Okay, you'll come back from the weekend, and then we start moving towards a test. We do some word problems, applications, and we start moving towards a test. I will tell you guys that based off your homework, some of you are doing really, really well, but some of you, there is no way you're using the classwork. There's just no way, because you're making just bad mistakes. And you need to start using the classwork. The classwork, answer key and everything, that process is set up so that you know how I want the answers. And if you don't give me the answers in the way that I've already shown you I want the answers, then I just count it wrong. I've kind of stopped with the whole partial credit thing. Okay? So make sure you're paying attention to that stuff. Today we're going to talk about the quadratic formula. Warm-up says to solve the following quadratic by factoring. So in order to solve it by factoring, we first need factors. Someone tell me the factors of this quadratic. Why is no one raising their hand? Why could you not find the factors of this quadratic? Griff? How do you know it's prime? 3 has nothing to do with why it's prime. Why do we know, why can we not factor it? Luke?
Oh, because there's no factor of -2 and 3 that will equal 8.
Because when you multiply A times C and you get -6, you would be looking for two numbers that when multiplied together get you -6 and when added together get you +8. And no two numbers exist which add up to -6 and which multiply to -6 and add to -8. They don't exist. That means, guys, factoring is off the table. Cannot factor it. Now, I'll tell you that what a lot of kids will now go is they'll go, well, there are no solutions. But I know there are solutions. Can anybody dazzle me with your math knowledge and tell me how you know that there are solutions to this particular quadratic? That is not why. Luke? That is not why. I am so far undazzled. If you think back to my very first unit of quadratics, someone describe this parabola for me, please. It's narrow. What else? The y-intercept is -2, and it faces up. There is no way you have a narrow parabola that faces up that has a y-intercept of -2, which doesn't cross the x. It has to cross the x-axis. Has to cross the x-axis. There's no other way it has a y-intercept of -2 and it faces up. Therefore, you know there are solutions somewhere. You know that there are 2 points somewhere on this where it crosses. It has to. You just can't find them with factoring. So we have 2 other ways that we've learned to solve a quadratic. One is the square root method. The way the square root method works is that you say you have like 5x squared equals 125. You can divide both sides by 5, then take the square root of both sides, and bam, you have your solutions. Why can you not use the square root method with this? Perfect, Griffin, because there's an 8x. The minute you have an 8x, it's out. Okay? Then yesterday we learned this completing the square thing, right? Completing the square is method number 3. We had factoring, we had square root method, so now we have completing the square. That's where we move this over here, and we end up with 3x squared plus 8x, big blank, equals 2, and then we have to make this a perfect square trinomial. Why is it not an option? Can anybody create for me a number that would go first that would multiply times itself and get you 3x squared?
No.
Can't do it. You cannot find a number that would multiply times itself get you 3x squared. In fact, I will tell you guys, for the most part, if the a value is anything other than 1, you cannot use completing the square. So now we've struck out. Strike 1, factoring. Strike 2, square root method. Strike 3, completing the square. But we know there are solutions. So that's where we come into today. Today we're going to learn the fourth and final way to solve a quadratic. And the cool thing about the quadratic formula is that it works no matter what. If you suck at factoring, if you suck at the square root method, if you suck at completing the square, the quadratic formula will find the solutions no matter what. We're going to. The quadratic formula will find you the solutions no matter what. There are kids who only use the quadratic formula because it works every stinking time. The only problem with it is it takes a while. And you have to kind of be methodical. Luke?
So would you say it's better to do something we're comfortable with and just in case we get the answer from that before?
It's a good way to double check it. And sometimes you'll get on a test. I'm sure everyone's had this before. We get on a test, and all of a sudden you literally, like, your brain just empties itself right before you read a question. You literally read the question, and you're like, I don't even think I took this class. I mean, like, I have nothing. You know the quadratic formula is a fallback, no matter what. If it's asking you for the zeros, the roots, the solutions to a quadratic, the quadratic formula will find them for you. Now, you need to make sure you have a calculator. If you don't have a calculator, get one. Go ahead, Luke, you can take that one. I saw him. He's looking around, thinking, I'm taking somebody else. Okay? You'll need a calculator. Because for the most part, it's a formula-driven calculator solution method. Okay, y'all really stink at shooting, so let's stop.
Okay.
Thank you. It's an algebraic method that can be used to solve any quadratic equation. And here are the steps. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to set your quadratic equal to 0 and make sure it's in standard form. Meaning, I want to see it as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Always get it in standard form and set it equal to 0 first. And then, you are going to find the values of a, b, and c. Identify the values of a, b, and c, making sure you pay attention to the values. Are they positive or are they negative? Then you are going to plug them in to this, which is the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is simply x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. You cannot plug it into the calculator yet. I'm going to show you how to do it in just a moment. Now, a few things I need you to keep in mind, Hayden.
Take away the plus or minus of the whole square root thing, that's the vertex. Well, that's the x-axis. That's the axis.
What is negative b over 2 times a? Very good.
Vertex.
It's the vertex formula. Yeah. We'll come to that in just a moment on why that is, but you're right. Now, when you plug in a number for a variable, what did I tell you I always want you to use when you substitute? Parentheses, right, John? So here's what you're going to get in the habit of writing. You're going to get in the habit of writing it so that it looks like this. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. And then you're going to put the numbers in. Always substitute with parentheses, and I'm going to show you why you want to do that in a moment. By the way, you'll notice that the negative sign for negative b is outside the parentheses. You'll notice that where it says b squared, that the squared is outside the parentheses. That is critically important. Critically important. And by the way, once you do all that, all you really have to do is put the answers into a solution set because this will find you both answers. The plus or minus in the formula sheet, in this formula, are what create the two solutions. The plus or minus are what create the two different solutions. Any questions? I want you to watch because I want to describe for you how I want you to solve it. I do not want you working ahead. I want you just to work with me. So here's what we do. The very first step is to get it in standard form equal to 0. It's not. So what must we do mathematically to get it there? Subtract 5. So we end up with x squared minus 2x minus 5 equal to 0. Now we can identify A, B, and C. A is 2b, negative 2, and negative 5. Now you'll notice I've already written the quadratic formula with all my parentheses, you guys. That will not be done for you on a test. You're going to have to do that yourself. The cool thing is the quadratic formula is on your formula sheet. You just have to remove the variables and put in the parentheses. I'm sorry. So now I'm going to start filling in. It's negative b plus or minus b squared. I don't even know why I did that. They're no good. B squared minus 4 times A times C over 2 times A. I just plugged in my A, B, and C values where they go. Now, you need to get me a clean version. Now, I want you to watch what I mean by a clean version, and I need to see this on every one. A clean version is where you just clean all this mess up. What is negative negative 2? You put that here. On the bottom, what is 2 times 1? That's what goes there. Now you're going to simplify what's under the radical. And because of all the parentheses, guys, all you have to do is type it in just like it's written. So I'm just going to literally turn my calculator on, hit clear, type in parentheses, negative 2, close parentheses, squared, minus 4, parentheses 1, parentheses negative 5, and I'm going to hit enter. It's just going to give me a number. Simple. And if you punch it in correctly and you hit enter, you should have the number 24. Now, is anybody not getting 24? Okay. Luke, did you follow it exactly like it's written? If you did an error, you put a subtraction where a negative sign is, or vice versa?
Probably.
That's a subtraction sign. Yeah, guys, remember the difference between a negative sign and a subtraction sign. Generally, if you'll read it in your mind, you will read it properly. Okay? So now, we have the square root of 24. We have to do that thing where we simplify the square root of 24. Some of you were messing up on this on the homework the other day. Remember, it's the largest good square root factor on the left. Very good. Makes it 4 times 6, which becomes 2 times the square root of 6. And you notice I didn't put plus or minus because it's already there. I don't have to do it twice. So here's what this becomes. It becomes 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 6 divided by 2. I'm almost done. The only thing, by the way, that's my answer. Those are my solutions. 2 plus 2 times the square root of 6 divided by 2, and 2 minus 2 times the square root of 6 divided by 2. Problem is, that's not simplified. Now, I want you to watch, because I need everyone to know how you simplify. There are 3 numbers. This is a number, this is a number, and this is a number. If all 3 numbers can be divided by the same number, then you can simplify it. Yeah, they can all be divided by 2. So this becomes a 1, this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 1. So the final answer is 1 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 6, or just the square root of 6. And then it's divided by 1, but I don't have to write that. That is your answer. And you're now done. By the way, if you want to know where this crosses, if you want to know where this quadratic crosses the x-axis, you type in 1 plus the square root of 6, you hit enter. You type in 1 minus the square root of 6, and you hit enter. That's it.
How did you do the square root part?
It's the second x squared. Hit second. There you go. Done. Okay? I want everyone to try the second one, but I want you to stop at the cleaned up version. I want you to stop at the cleaned up version. Follow your steps. Set it equal to 0, identify A, B, and C, plug them all in, and then clean it up. All right, so here we go. So 4x squared minus 6x plus 1 equals 0. A is 4, B is negative 6, C is 1. So it's negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a, which is 6, plus 20 over 8. Okay, what you should have gotten is 6 plus or minus the square root of 20 divided by 8. Anybody not get that and they're not sure why? Okay, so we need to clean up the square root of 20. So do the square root of 20, that splits to the square root of 4, square root of 5, which is 2 root 5. So let's rewrite it. 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5 divided by 8. Does that clean up? Does it simplify? Oh, yes, it does. Because 6, 2, and 8 are all divisible by 2. This becomes a 3, this becomes a 1, and that becomes a 4, which gives you 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 divided by 4, which is your answer, well, which are your answers. Now I want to stop and make sure everyone can get to this point, and then I'm going to show you how this works. How many numbers is this?
4.
It's 2 numbers. It is 3 plus the square root of 5 divided by 4, and it is 3 minus the square root of 5 divided by 4. Plus or minus. What do these numbers represent? The solutions, where it crosses the x-axis. Now I want to show you something. While y'all were starting on your quadratic formula, I punched this into y equals, and I hit graph. And this is what I saw, basically, notwithstanding the fact that I can't draw very well. Now here's what I want you to do. I want everyone to pick up your calculator, and I want you to type in 3 plus the square root of 5. By the way, you will not hit divided by 4 yet. You're going to hit enter, then you're going to hit divided by 4, and you're going to hit enter again. It's 1.31. And then you're going to go down here and you're going to type in 3 minus the square root of 5, enter, divided by 4, enter. And you're going to get 0.19. Yeah. It's not really simplified. This is just the decimal version. It's the estimate. But if you look, based off of the y equals, that's about right. That's how we know we've solved it properly. Now here's the thing. Most of the time, guys, this is your right answer for almost all the tests. But every once in a while, you get one of those tests where they want the decimal version. The decimal version is when you then split it. Here's what I want you to do. I set up the classwork so there's only 1 page of classwork, 4 problems. Then there's 1 page of homework, 4 problems. There's also an extra practice sheet, which is in the desk next to mine if you want it. I'm not going to take it up. It's not a big deal. But I do want all 4 classworks done and checked before you move on to homework. If you have any questions, check the key, and then if you have any questions, come talk to me.